All right, so let me talk a little bit tonight about a new dimension of wonder. And in some ways, if a couple of you have anticipated it, last week I did the body as just a whole arena, and I wanted to give sort of thinking a little bit of room tonight. I think that in learning meditation, often thinking gets a bad rap because it is problematic. And, we exert a lot of energy meditating, trying to pull ourselves down out of our thoughts into a deeper non conceptual presence. And so thoughts sometimes appear to be the bad guy. Um, and it's also true that thoughts can kind of put a filter between us and the world, so we don't actually see it for what it is. But though that's actually part of their wonder about the power that they have, the power of a thought or a label. I was in the post office and I was looking at the clerk, and this thought occurred to me: oh, they're not very attractive. And I heard myself kind of say that to myself, and I literally just kind of turned it around and said, well, let me actually pay attention to this person in a more holistic way. And I just kind of let their energy in and admired it. And I have to say, they were like dealing with my package. And at a certain point, when they looked me in the eye, I felt this genuine affection for them. And yet, that thought and kind of the judgment was potentially going to dismiss and turn someone into just a label, it might have blinded me from actually seeing this person entirely, a thought like that. And so for that reason, thoughts kind of get a bad reputation. And yet, I think it's really important to pay attention to their power and to wonder at their power. But tonight, I want to celebrate thoughts a little bit more than maybe you hear in most Dharma talks, because it really is pretty amazing. I'm just struck by the persistence of the mind's thinking. Even as a meditator for 45 years, these thoughts are pretty darn persistent. There's something in us that thinks it's supposed to think, and it's supposed to generate possible perspectives on whatever it is that's going on right in front of us, and or not going on in front of us, to fish out something from the past or imagine something from the future. And the power of that is kind of amazing. I think, we as a species, have evolved this incredible kind of symbolic thought, which doesn't seem to be the way animals, other than human, function. And it takes an enormous amount of our energy. So just that, I think, is the source of wonder. And then just the way that thoughts keep arising of themselves. I've spent a lot of time meditating and noticing thoughts. And thoughts, even when I intend not to think, they just keep happening. They arise of themselves. And of course, I grammatically refer to my thoughts as if I own them, as if they were my possession. And yet there's a way that the mind is it's a thinking thing. It just does it, as in the human way. It just keeps thinking. And so there are times when I'm meditating and I'm kind of astonished at that, at the persistence of it. I've been writing, and which is not a good thing to do to your meditation, to be a writer. I think it's kind of contraindicated in a certain way, because there's a part of my mind that will just use that blank space to think of things to write, think of a thing I'm writing on and what what needs to be added to it, how it could be said differently. And so it's just like working for me. And sometimes I just go, wow. There's been times when I've suggested things to say in your practice, like there's no problem here when you're getting upset about something, thinking it shouldn't have happened. There's no problem here. Or I really want to be here for this, for something that's, what your mind is putting in the category of bad. But lately, I've really liked the word wow. Just like, wow. And it can be used really in a broad way. Like, when you read the news and something happened that it's like kind of unbelievable, and you go, or someone's opinion, and you kind of go, wow, which stops my mind from like proliferating on that very much. It's just kind of the astonishment sometimes of other people's minds. And the wow it kind of lifts me a bit out of the judgmental track to just the sheer astonishment that someone just said something that like that or thinks that way. It's like, wow. So I'll share that just about thoughts. And then language. When I was, kind of thinking about thinking, I thought about language, and this already came up tonight about what an amazing thing language is. And poetry, tries to make the most of it, tries to say something in short of way as possible that can nonetheless kind of be so divergent in terms of where it will take the mind. And sometimes it's just a phrase. Someone will put two words together and it will light up something inside of me. And that is kind of wondrous too, the wonder of words. I've, wanted to steal a lot of phrases from other people that way, of like what they've said that really works. And the way that words, they have this wealth around them of connotation. And I could choose any word. The word that just came to me is wheat. I have lots of feelings about that word. I grew up on a wheat farm. We all eat. We've all seen it. You may have your particular kinds of associations. But, as a writer, I'm very conscious of this about the words that I use and what are likely connotations. And there are certain things that just, evoke a certain kind of feeling in people, an image, and so forth. And that's language. It's truly wondrous. And, because I have the great privilege to be a grandparent and to watch the miracle of language happening in this little being. And that's pretty wondrous too, to have her be able to communicate and even communicate by sign language, like this means more, So, we call her, we have this thing that we sing songs to her. And, we'll finish one and she'll go like this, which means more. And that's not a word she's had to learn in terms of English because she's got a sign for it. And she also is learning Spanish at the same time because the person who looks after her is Spanish speaking and only speaks Spanish to her. And so it's kind of fun too to see, that she responds to this other language. And so it's just source of constant amazement to me. And then I was thinking too of humor. So one of the things we use words for, we use them to say our feelings, to say our deepest feelings to someone. You think of the power of the word "I love you" to someone, what that evokes. But then there's this thing that is kind of a mystery to me, humor, um, which is the ability to make people laugh or make them smile or to see irony. And, I don't even know how it works. I can do it sometimes. Um, and I always appreciate if somebody gets it, gets when I'm trying to be humorous, but it's pretty amazing. And I think too, just like the wonder of laughter, wonder of laughter. I don't know of any other animal that laughs. I mean, there are, hyenas make laughing like sounds and so forth. I'm not 100% sure of this, and maybe someone will correct me, but it's kind of a uniquely human thing, and it's a bit of a mystery. And I was flying home recently, and I watched this movie, which was about uh, a Navajo girl who went home from her home in LA, far from her people, and went to the reservation and to stay at the reservation. And she, of course, didn't want to be there at first. And there's a whole movie about this. But toward the end, she was the one who made this baby laugh for the first time. And they have this ceremony, they have this big party that they give to celebrate the first time the baby laughs and to celebrate the person who is able to make it laugh for the first time. And I thought, what a human thing. What, for a culture to have, first of all, recognized what that is. It's such a big deal when a baby smiles for the first time and it's a real smile rather than just, accidental, where there's a real response. And then, like the first laughter, it is like this becoming, stepping into being human in some way. So my suggestion for this week is to notice thoughts from this perspective, from the perspective of wonder, to just see how they happen and how wondrous they are. To notice the content of the thought and the power of a thought to define something for better or worse, really. Thoughts have incredible power, and I think we have to bow to them and see them for what they are. To notice words and get some pleasure out of it, get some pleasure out of words and some astonishment out of the power of words. And maybe along with that, notice laughter, notice humor, all these things. And let that be just a part of your practice, along with everything else that's going to happen this week. So take care, and we'll talk next week and see what you experienced. All right. Bye, everybody.